Oh. Okay, go to planning.
Go through and then get to the public hearing.
Okay, I think I got it.
So, quick summary, this is a zone change request for real property located at approximately 1874 South Daniel Road, parcel number, you see it there. The property is currently zoned R1 residential and I1 industrial, with each zone covering approximately 50%. A zoning map amendment has been requested by the applicant to rezone the parcel entirely as I1 industrial. So, policy question for tonight: should a zoning map amendment for property located at 1874 South Daniels Road be approved to change zoning from I1/R1 to I1 only? This is the area map. You can see it's just right down here along Daniels Road, near to the airport. There's a few older homes that line up the road here. And then apparently PDFs don't work in PowerPoints, so we'll go here. This is a map of the current zoning. You can see how that R1 zone covers the front half and the I1 zone covers the back half. As far as I can tell, that was the zoning that it was assigned when it was annexed in the early 2000s. The requested zoning would appear as follows on the zoning map, with the full property being zoned I1 industrial. We'll jump back over here. General plan land use designation. Again, we're right here in this black box. The general plan does designate this whole side, west side of Daniels Road as industrial.
How do I make
So it
the
is in
screen
line
go
with
good?
the general plan. And then there's that policy question again. One other comment that I'd like to make that I outlined in my staff report is that the applicant would like to continue to use the home as a residence, which it would be considered a grandfathered use. So they would be allowed to do that and then continue to use the back of the property for industrial. That would be approved uses in that zone.
Is our applicant here? Would you like to ask, would you have any comments or questions or any additional that you'd like to offer? If you would like to come forward and then say your name. If not, that's fine. Come on up, or you can just stand at the podium. That'd be great.
All right, yeah. Sorry, my name is Chris Parker. I just own the property, and, you know, eventually we want to do something industrial on it where it is in the industrial zone. And so we felt like the first step was to get it from residential to industrial so that we know what we have and where we're at and where we stand. And then sometime in the future, I don't know if that'll be 6 months from now or 6 years from now, you know, we assume that house will get torn down and then some type of industrial use will be implemented there. I think that's probably about it.
Okay. Could I ask you to have a seat for a minute while we have the public hearing? And if it's all right with the commissioners, I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing before we have any questions, so we keep it as an open feedback. So with that, would you mind announcing sort of the parameters of our open meeting policies and procedures?
Okay, the public hearing comments can be emailed to pcpublic@heberut.gov. Emailed comments will be may be read up to 3 minutes during the open comment portion of the public hearing and will be included as part of the permanent public record. Participants may also comment through the online portal by turning on their camera, raising their hand. Once the comment is finished, we ask that cameras be turned back to the opposition. Whether comments are made in person at the council chambers, through the online portal, or emailed, make sure to state your name, limit comments to 3 minutes, and do your best not to repeat what has already been stated.
Very well. Thank you, Michelle. With that, we'd like to open the public meeting, consider it now open. So if anybody have any comments, it's very important for us as the Planning Commission to feel very open with and have a overt opportunity for people to give comments. So if anybody would like to comment to this particular application, please come forward now and speak your name and let us know what you think about this application. Anybody online?
Yes.
I'm on.
Okay, So Damien, do you have a comment or a question?
Oh, I have questions.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I just had some questions. It wasn't really explained. I mean, it was kind of fast. So, what is this parcel and how many acres and is what? Where is it located? Like, is it in the county or is it in Daniel or where is it?
So Jamie, all of that was just reviewed a few minutes ago. Do you have anything specific you'd like to ask
Those are
pertinent to
my
what was
specific.
just presented?
Those are my specific questions.
No, I believe all those were addressed in the.
Okay, but I didn't hear. So, how big is the property?
Sir, how big is your property?
1 acre.
1 acre.
And then, what is it? What is it in county or city or where is it right now?
It's currently in the city.
In Heber
correct.
City or in Daniel or Wasatch County?
It's currently located within Heber city boundaries.
Oh, it's in Heber? It's already in Heber?
Yes.
Okay, and then you want to change it from residential to industrial?
That's the applicant's
Yes.
request, yes.
Jamie, all of that was reviewed in the last few minutes. Is
Yeah,
there
I know,
something
it was very
you'd like
fast,
to
and so I
ask?
just wanted clarification. Is that okay, Phil?
We just went over all that material. If you were present, that's great. If you weren't, I'd ask you to go back with materials yourself.
I just wanted clarification. I have 3 minutes to speak, right?
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Very good. Would anybody other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, let's close the public hearing. So commissioners, do we have any specific questions of either staff or of our applicant?
I have a question just for staff.
Sure.
So going back to, this is Ross, you're in here, right? Yep. Okay. Just making sure, I mean, I have no issue with this. I know we had another applicant just south of here looking at that, and there was a question about sewer, eventual road, widening the road. So I see that all in here. Do you have any issues with those things as far as utility hookups, anything like that? There's agreeing to a pioneering agreement. I'm sure that's what you're looking at, Chris. Once they go to widen the road, you'd be participating in your frontage there. Yep. So we're all good there. So everything's good from engineering and what Chris understands. So there would be no questions as far as future utilities, future road, future easement, access, any of that.
Yeah, we simply just put in there that at time of development or at time of anything that you're doing besides this zone change, yes, you would be obligated to comply with any of the city engineer's regulations and or master plan utilities. So we're not concerned at this point about anything.
Okay.
So.
Is that property, is it on public sewer or is it on a septic?
It's actually on septic.
It is on a septic. Got it. So is that something that would happen in the future time if they tear down the house and do something there, that they would go to a connection on the sewer?
That's the way we see it, yes. If they came in for a site plan to do some sort of something on there in the future, yes, we would at that point in time have to address master plan and utility issues.
Is there sewer and everything on that road, I'm assuming, that they just put a lateral to?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, good. So, I mean, those are my only questions. I agree. I think that I'm always a proponent of more industrial. I think we're really lacking for that zoning in this vicinity. So I'm for it, especially this property is already half industrial. And if I'm understanding right, everything to the south of it is industrial as well, right? So, I mean, to me, it doesn't not make sense to grant this to Chris, to, runs a business in the community, trying to do better of what's here. To me, I'm a proponent of giving a favorable vote. So those are my questions. That's my feeling, but.
Just for me, in this move over to industrial, if you have a subsequent sale, then that house will have to remain as is. Is that our understanding? Maybe it's a question for staff. In other words, there would be no changes allowed to it if we're actual transfer of ownership?
So essentially, because the home is there right now in residential, this would mean it'd be legal non-conforming. So as long as there was no changes to the house that were substantial or change of use or whatever, they can maintain that use regardless of who owns it.
Yeah.
So if they sell this, then they can maintain that or they can redevelop. But the sale of the land really would have no basis of that.
Okay, that's what I understood, so that's helpful. Any other questions from our commission? Okay, very good. So we've had a public hearing. The applicant has been able to address us. I think we've had a chance to talk to staff. I think we're at a place where normally we would have a public hearing. We would wait to be able to go another 2 weeks or to another meeting, so we'd be able to understand and reflect on any public comments. Since we haven't heard any today, I think this is an exception. So would anybody on the commission like to make a motion to move this forward? Oh, we have a hand up. H, sorry, is that in the chat?
What? We're just going to practice.
So the participant online named H, could you come off of mute and ask your question?
Oh.
Okay. And then you see something in the chat, Michelle. What's the question? Okay. So the specific question is,
What does he plan to do
what's
with
he
it?
planning on doing with it? Sir?
Yeah, so I actually want to just continue using it as is for the
Okay.
current time. So the home will be used as a residential home. And then behind the home, the rest of the property will be used. Part of it's leased out to a landscaper and the other portion is a towing company.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, do we have a motion from this commission?
Chairman, I would like to move to approve 1874 South Daniel Road rezone as presented with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion above.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded for Commissioner Royal. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion recognize by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody in opposition? Nay. The ayes have it. Very good. We move forward. Good luck, sir, with your project. Second agenda item is a public hearing on body art facility text amendment. Mr. Roberts, this is yours. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me pull open my PowerPoint. Okay, so this is something that's come before the body before, so it shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Body art facilities, holding a public hearing for text amendment. So really briefly, I'm going to go through the history a little bit. I know we've done it before, but just going to do it again, and then I'll go through the draft ordinance and what we are recommending, and then we can move on from there. So again, background, a few months ago, the beginning of the year, we had a business owner approach the city, having gone through all of the other regulatory agencies in the valley, only to find out that we do not permit tattoo anywhere in the city. So there's a couple problems that came up quickly. First being that we didn't permit it anywhere in the city. We were instructed by staff and our city attorney to correct that. And then the second issue was the definition. There was no definition. There is no definition in the code. And the word tattoo is extremely vague and very hard to enforce. So policy question here, should Heber City adopt a new ordinance updating the definition of body art facilities and permitting such facilities in multiple zones within city limits? So current status of body art facilities, already touched on this a little bit, but they're prohibited citywide. The question came up, are these permitted in sexually oriented businesses? They are not. I've included there a list. The sexually oriented business overlay zone is very specific in what it does and doesn't allow, and it is not staff's understanding that tattoo would fall underneath that. Definitions, that's a big thing that I think is really important here, is updating our definition and specifically getting in line with state code. This is state code, so body art facility means a facility where an individual practices or instructs body piercing, branding, permanent cosmetics, scarification, or tattooing. The same section of state code includes the definitions of microblading and permanent cosmetics. Okay, so proposed changes. This is all in the draft ordinance that I sent you, but I'm going to go through it page by page and just talk about what it would do. So the first thing that it would do is creating a new section in the definitions, 18.08.041, body art facilities, which is just a definition. Body art facility or facilities means a facility where an individual practices or instructs body piercing, permanent cosmetics, microblading, or tattooing. As a group, when we were talking about this with the artists and with the planning commissioner, we decided that we should leave out branding and scarification from that definition. So includes those 4 items, does not include branding and scarification. Microblading, so then there's 2 more definitions here. Microblading means a procedure where a hand tool with a blade formed of tiny needles implants permanent or semi-permanent pigment resembling hair into the skin of the eyebrow area with fine and short strokes. Permanent cosmetics means a permanent or semi-permanent tattoo to the eyebrows, eyelids, lips, or other parts of the body for beauty marks, hair imitation, lash enhancement, or tissue repigmentation. So I think that those do a pretty good job of covering what's already happening in salons across the city, and also covering some of the new uses that business owners would like to see available to them. Continuing on, this ordinance affects a few different zones, so we did notice a large portion of the city. For that reason, we did take out the changes to the home occupations for 2 reasons. One, we didn't think it was very cost effective to notice the entire city in one shot. And we feel that the home occupations code itself could use a deeper look. So we'll get to that as a separate ordinance later on. So this goes through and adds body art facilities as a permitted use in the following zones. Commercial zones, all commercial, fully permitted. I-1 industrial, I-2 industrial, also business park and business medical park zone. And that's permitted with no conditions. We chose to include some of those other zones because we feel that there are already services allowed in those zones that are similar enough to body art facilities. So we figured that we would expand to those different areas. So in conclusion, staff is requesting approval with conditions or negative recommendation from the body art or for the body art facility text amendment. Staff recommends approval based on the findings outlined here. Staff recommends adopting new language to define body art facilities, aiming to clarify the permitting process and address any confusion caused by original wording and lack. Staff recommends permitting body art facilities in all commercial and industrial zones, as these areas already accommodate a range of compatible uses, including personal and professional services. Now, I do tend to talk a little fast when I get nervous. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to go back over anything that the Planning Commission might have before we get to the public hearing.
Okay. Just before that, is our applicant here? Great. Would you come forward? Do you have any comments to what's been presented so far? Just so we have your perspective. Is this consistent with your? Okay, great. That's good to know. Does the Planning Commission have any specific questions of staff at this point?
I don't have anything right now. I'm sorry I missed the last meeting, but I do remember when you were here a few months ago. So has anything changed from a few months ago?
No, it has not. Not much, no.
Not much.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and open the public meeting then, or public hearing. And with that, I think we've just recently made the announcement, so we keep our comments to essentially 3 minutes. Any and all are welcome to come and comment to this. We just ask you to introduce yourself, and we'd ask the audience to please refrain from any cheering or other such expression of either consent or disagreement on the basis of free speech and being people to feel comfortable and being able to say what they have in mind. With that, let's open up the public hearing effective immediately this minute now. You do? All right, Michelle, let's go with you. These are submitted by email?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. Please open. Okay. This is from a Megan Harris. She says, I would like to show my support for the necessary zoning changes that will allow more body art services in the community, tattoo, microblading, piercings, permanent makeup, etc. Body art might not be for everyone, but there are many people who want or need these services. We would rather keep our business in our valley than drive 30 to 60 minutes somewhere else. Thank you for your time.
Very good.
This one is from a Denise Harris. She says, in case I am not able to make the meeting on May 13th, I want to express our family's support for the zoning changes that will follow for more body art services in our community, whether it is tattoo, microblading, piercings, or permanent makeup. Sadly, many people have negative connotations regarding body art. If so, that is their choice, but I would love to see more options for it here in Heber for people that do support it. Then they won't need to drive 30 to 60 minutes. Did I just read that? The same one. Oh, Megan here. Okay, it was similar. Okay. All right. All right. This next one is from Jeannie Richards, and she says, I'm writing to express my strong support for the proposed change to the city code that would allow the operation of body art facilities within our community. This change represents more than just a regulatory update. It acknowledges the evolving cultural, artistic, and economic landscape of our city. The women leading the initiative have shown remarkable dedication and persistence in their efforts to make a positive difference. Their leadership has been rooted in professionalism, community engagement, and a deep respect for health and safety standards. Body art is a legitimate and respected form of personal and artistic expression. Allowing licensed and well-regulated facilities in our city will not only provide new opportunities for local artists and entrepreneurs, but also ensure that this practice is carried out in safe, clean, and professional environments. I commend the city for considering this change and urge you to vote in favor of updating the code to support these businesses. The individuals behind this movement have shown a sincere commitment to improving our community, and I stand with them in support of progress. Thank you for your time and consideration. And then I have one more.
That was number 3. You have one more, right?
I have one more.
Yep.
This one is from Nicole Robinson. And she says, I am writing in support of changing, and then in parentheses it says changing back with a question mark, zoning that would allow body artists more freedom in Heber City. I understand that tattoo parlors may once have been a shop that carried negative connotations and culture, but not only have times changed, so has the body art industry. A more liberal zoning situation giving them the ability to practice in multiple places without outdating ideas of tattooing is what we need in Heber City. Additionally, I am in deep support of Oakley Franklin and the work she and salon owner have done and should be allowed to practice in the location they reside. I don't know the details of this quiet change in October 2022, but it frustrates me that changes like this aren't clearly shared with business owners and the public so that word on the street is a clear knowing. Thanks for your time. Hope body art services and small businesses thrive.
Very good. Anybody else here today would like to speak to the commission and either for or against this? Okay, I think we have one hand in the air. Is that correct? H, is that you, Damien?
I don't have my hand raised, I don't think. Let me.
Very good. That's from a previous.
But I have a question. That is, but I have a question.
You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just wondering, so what wasn't they already approved in industrial and commercial before? So I'm just wondering what the change is, and then I'm just wondering if it's okay if I open some tattoo shops everywhere. Like it doesn't, can I just open some tattoo shops everywhere wherever I want now in the industrial and commercial?
I believe your question is, was this previously allowed in industrial? Is that your question?
And commercial, yes. What's the difference?
Hey, Mr. Roberts.
It was previously allowed in commercial. I'm not sure about industrial. I have to let Jamie answer that question. It was changed in 2022 when John Jansen helped the city do a major code rewrite of the entire commercial zone. And at that time, it was added as one of the prohibited uses. That's why a lot of people do see tattoo shops out in the city. Those people receive business licenses before the change. As far as industrial zones, I'm going to let Jamie pipe in because I don't think I was here long enough to know.
Yeah, it's my understanding that in the past, that tattooing was permitted in certain industrial zones. And I believe actually at one point was part of the I2 or SOB. But as it's currently written with those modifications, it's not allowed in any zone. And basically following land use law practices, it is best practice and required that we allow it somewhere in the city. And so that's why we're coming back to address it. Currently, it is proposed to go in, as Jacob mentioned, to go in commercial and industrial. So if somebody wants to go in an industrial commercial zone, yes, they could file for a business license to receive a business license, as long as they meet all the requirements.
And currently, that's currently not allowed.
Yes, correct. Currently, that is not allowed.
Changed in 22, I believe. Okay.
So
Yes.
I was on the planning commission when we changed that, and it was my impression that we were just limiting a certain area so that like the downtown was more like children oriented fud shops, things like that. We weren't doing, you know, tattoo parlors downtown. It was more like you go to, you know, on the outer areas by Smith's, by Walmart, that's where more tattoo shops would be because there was a different look and feel downtown. But and I feel like hers would have been grandfathered in from the old code, wasn't because she was in, hang on a second, she was in business at that time, so that would have been a grandfathered of the other code if she didn't stop practicing. But just my final question, so it's okay for me to open a tattoo shop anywhere in the industrial commercial, like is that what you're saying, right?
If this is proposed and adopted by if this is adopted by the council as proposed, that would be correct. So
But I can just have I don't have to do body art, I can just do like regular tattoos wherever.
yeah, you could do tattoos.
Okay, just tattoo shops, all right, thank you.
Okay.
There's a lot of regulation around it. You can't just get a business license and start tattooing.
Correct.
What are those regulations?
There's a lot of regulations through the health department and at the state level.
You have to be licensed. You have to have a certain amount of training.
Oh, I'm saying I'd hire employees. I just want to open tattoo shops. So I'll hire people who have all the requirements.
Just wanted to
Thank you.
clarify that point.
Yep. Thank you.
Very well. Do we have any other comments or concerns or questions? Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions specifically for staff or for the applicant or comments? Floor is open.
Okay, I'll jump forward. So I probably won't be a customer, but I'm not opposed to it, okay? Is that fair enough to say?
That is fair.
Okay. So I agree. I think we need to have a place for things to happen. And again, I apologize I wasn't here last time, but from the time before, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm glad that like scarification and branding is not on here, because my worry was, you know, there's an open window and someone's getting scarified and, you know, kids come by and they have bad dreams. That was my biggest concern. And I remember you saying that even most of the stuff is done very much in a back room in private. It's not like, you know, there's a big open window and you're doing your stuff that's there. And I just want to make sure that's their understanding, right? That you do the business there, but it's not like way out in the public and this is what you're doing. Is that?
Yes. That is the understanding, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only thing. Other than that, I feel like I'm not going to be a customer, but I'm definitely not going to oppose what most people do. Because I mean, I have a lot of friends and relatives, and this is a big thing for them to do that. And
Yes, absolutely it is, yes.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think we have any regulation. We're just talking about what it would be to have your business in Heber, and that's can't.
And I don't believe there's
That is correct, though.
there's nothing in the licensing process that requires you to keep this out of public view. Sure. Right.
Yeah.
That would be acknowledgement and consent to the desire for privacy, but otherwise there's no requirement for that. Okay. I just want,
I guess I'm not necessarily implying it's a requirement. I'm just saying, in our discussion, that was my only concern, is that it wasn't going to be in a huge public display. So other than that, I feel like,
Great.
we need to make a space. So
comments, other questions from the commission?
I would just like to thank Jacob for working so well with our petitioner, because there was a lot of like ambiguity in a lot of the definition. I like that we're aligning with the state code. I think that's brilliant. It is not cheap to do tattoos. I mean, even single line was $225 for 45 minutes. So there's an art to it. There's lots of training to it. Lots of health department stuff you have to go through. So I like that we reworded it. That we took out branding and scarification. And I think that it will benefit a lot of people in our community.
I would echo, Josh, your compliment and notice of the great work, Jacob, you've done on this. I really want to say that on our behalf, we appreciate the in-depth work you've done and quite frankly, the sensitivity that you've had to our applicant being, this is their livelihood, and at the same time recognizing that it's a public perception, and I've learned in my life, perception is reality. So there's that. Jacob, could you remind us, I believe you did some comparison of other tattoo regulations in other cities. Could you do us a favor? Because that is public record. Could you bring it back up for a moment? Is that easy for you to get to?
I'm not sure if I can access that.
I remember it very well because I thought it was hilarious.
Well, I thought it was interesting for us to see where Heber is compared to other communities. If the commission would humor me for a minute.
Just give me one
All I
second.
remember is Heber was behind Payson. Payson was very progressive. Lehigh was you had to be some portion of the business in the back.
Yeah, screened or
and
something.
Screened, and like
That's
less
why I
than
had my question
10%
about
of the
that.
income of the business.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Provo, yep.
So Jacob, if it's not easy, then wait a minute.
Yeah, well, Lehigh was the one that you had to be in the back, 10% of the business. It was very very regimented. Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to do a bit of a straw poll with our. Oh, here we go.
Didn't find it. So sorry, but you got the right idea. Provo was in the process of changing theirs, their overall zoning code, and they were planning on being more permissive. Payson City was very permissive across the city, and I think all commercial zones they allowed it. Lehigh was pseudo permissive. They allowed it in most commercial zones, but in a few of their commercial zones, they had to be in the back or can only take up, I think it was less than 10% of the overall floor plan. And so those were some things that I had recommended from the last session.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume tonight as soon as it's going to move forward to council, could I suggest you revive that document and then deliver it as part of your staff report to the city council? Just a polling of our commissioners here. Typically, we've made a practice of not doing a vote either up or down when we've done a public hearing. I'm wondering if, in fact, since this is the third time our applicant's been with us, if there'd be a willingness to move ahead tonight on this particular action.
I'm willing.
Robert, how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Tori?
I think we should move ahead.
David? Derek? Okay.
we should move ahead.
Okay, so we've had a public hearing. We've had a great deal of work by staff on trying to bring this forward. We've seen some comparisons to the other cities that are this fashion. I think we've moved to a place to really move this into more distributed access for our public, and I think that's really what's at the table tonight. With that, would the commission be interested in making a motion?
I move to approve the body art facility text amendment as presented with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion above in our staff report.
Awesome.
I second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Broughton, and we have a second by Commissioner Nye. Okay, any discussion? Awesome. Those in favor of motion, please recognize by saying aye.
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 Anybody in opposition? Nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you very, very much for your patience, and good luck.
One more step. You.
Jacob, thanks again. Moving on, we have another public hearing tonight. Item number 3 is the Karl Malone Polaris MDA located at 900 South and Main Street. I believe this is Ms. Woodbury. Is Ms. Woodbury online?
Sorry, she's excused tonight.
Okay.
So I will take
Very
that
good.
for her.
Jamie Barron. Teed up.
With us tonight, we have David Hicks, who's the general manager for Karl Malone, and we have Cal Johnson, who's represented as engineer for the project. This is a public hearing for a development agreement for Karl Malone Polaris. They are looking to expand their current facility and showroom to provide for additional space. And one of the issues that the primary reason for this, let me just go here to the civil set. I think this will be the easiest to explain the situation. As they currently stand within the city, they're set back quite a ways from Main Street. And our policy says that you have to be a minimum of 20 feet from the right of way, but a maximum of 4. The new building that was built, Karl Malone Power Sports on the north end, has the Honda and then the other brands. They are within that maximum of 40 feet. The issue here is that they're so far back that even if to do the addition, they would have to come into compliance. So they'd have to essentially either add on more than what they are proposing, or they would have to completely remove that entire building to no more than 40 feet off the back of the sidewalk. And so what they're requesting is a development agreement to allow them to do the additional showroom space and additional workshop space, but not have to meet that setback. That is the primary criteria. And one of the reasons for this is they have their trucks that come in, they come on in off of 100 West, they circle around, these are the delivery trucks, as well as potentially some of their clients or customers, I should say, and they circle around that building to try to get back out onto Main Street. And so really that's the crux of what that is they're trying to do with this project. And so as part of this, they also own some of the land on 100 or 1000 South, and they're proposing on doing the frontage improvements with the site plan on that. But the development agreement is primarily needed just for this addition here on Main Street. So with that, I think if there's anything else that you
What's
have.
the new setback for that?
So the new setback is, sorry, let me zoom in. There's like 106. I was going to say 105, but I think right now you're at close to 200 feet, if I remember right. So they are coming much closer to
27 feet?
But right, so that would be 106.15 feet from the back of the sidewalk, correct, or from property line. Yeah. Again, they're back here closer to 200 feet. They're pretty much in the middle of the block. So this still would allow them to have adequate parking in the front, as well as to do the show, to showcase their vehicles up in front as they've done on the north end. But this would be primarily to allow them to expand without having to completely move the building. They're coming more into conformance, but not complete conformance.
This specific MDA is just for that setback. Do we have any opportunity to see what's now being proposed for this architecture?
Everything's in the package as far as what's being proposed, so we can look at. So there's a draft development agreement, or this is just the kind of location map. We haven't developed or done the draft agreement, but it's primarily about that. This is the architectural renderings of what they're proposing. We would assume that they would meet the code, and then so they're working within our guidelines. But this is what that would look like, and then landscape revisions. Again, they're going to put in. They've already done some landscaping on 100 West. They're proposing to do all the frontage improvements on 1000 South as part of this project. And then there's an existing building here that at least right now is going to remain, as far as I'm aware. It could go away if they wanted to do that, but that would not impact their ability to meet the code. So again, they're also doing the landscaping improvements in front. One of the things that we had discussed with them is, and this is in our code as well, that I think there's a chain link fence there now. The code has been adopted and amended to prohibit chain link in this area. And so we would look to do some sort of metal fencing. We've had conversations with that. So I think Mr. Hicks could weigh in on that if there's any concern there.
That's facing Main Street right now, right? The chain.
Correct,
And not only is it facing Main Street, but it's like right out on the street.
Yeah.
So it's very, within view, where
Obvious.
the new fencing that we're wanting to do will be, much further back mid-block, that there won't be anything out front, right off Main Street.
Okay.
It would be back by like essentially the building, right? Yeah, so that front area would just be open like a traditional business. And that that chain link fence was actually installed prior to them becoming the property owner.
I went by the property today to have a look at it, and that was going to be my first question is what improvements can you walk us through the improvements you're going to make from the street? Because it's not very appealing at the moment, so that's good to hear. Can you go back to the elevations, and can you just clarify what the elevations are, like what the point of view of each of the elevations is? Like I think one was labeled east and one was west, but I wasn't totally clear on that.
That one right there would be looking north from
1,000 south.
Yeah, 1,000 south would be looking north.
Okay.
That would be the north on the, like if you went there today where you pull in that drive off Main Street, this would kind of be your view pulling in the drive, right? Because the right would be north, and then that left side be looking west.
Gotcha. And is the drive just next to that other building that has like nails in it or something? Okay. Gotcha.
Downstairs and then nail salon up.
Okay.
I guess to answer your question, so some of the improvements right now off of Main Street, we don't have any landscaping really. There's just the rocks in the park strip, and then there's the sidewalk, and then the pavement right now goes right up to back of sidewalk. And so in the proposed plan, we would change that and have the proper setbacks behind the sidewalk with landscape, all that. That chain link fence will come down, open that up. Very similar, like Jamie said, to our concept that's on the other end of town, where like the whole front is open, without being all fenced and everything. We still have a fenced area in the back to protect our inventory, keep it safe at night, but it won't be so prominent out front, like it's like a big gate you got to pull in to get to the store, right? Like the idea would be when our customers pull in, they don't pull in through a gate anymore. The only thing that's gated is behind where like customer service machines would be.
With removal of the fence,
He's trying to get in.
with removal of the fence, will you still display inventory out at the sidewalk, or will that also move back?
Yes, we will. Once again, very similar to what we do at the other end of town, where there'd be some landscaping, some rocks in the landscaping that we will display some machines on. But as far as having it all paved and just machines lined up, it would be
a little bit different.
Less than now. We would just kind of have some spaces in the landscaping with some big rocks we could pull some machines up on.
Great, thank you. That was my main question.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission?
So I'd like to I frequent this business a lot. So my biggest concern is traffic flow. I pull a big trailer in there and I have a hard enough time as it is without having that building there. So do I need to go to your competitor where there's a bigger parking lot?
This is going to be a huge improvement to parking and huge improvement to if you're pulling a trailer too.
So if I'm pulling a trailer, how do I get in and out?
So you will pull in off Main Street.
Through that 23-foot opening.
That's the first option. So we'll talk about that one first.
I'm just saying, when I do it right now, it takes everything and hopefully no one's in the way. Okay.
What happened is behind the insurance/nail salon, we've made an access agreement with him where that drive will go straight through. So, this one?
So yeah, where are we talking, Dave? So I'm tracking.
south end, yep, right there. So that right now there's a big approach right there where Jamie's mouse is. That approach does not go straight. How the fence is, you pull in the approach, then you got to take a left, then you got to take a right, you got to zigzag all the way around. All that fencing comes out that's there right now. That all stays open as well. So potentially you can pull in off Main Street and then you could make that turn with a big trailer and go straight out on 1000 South.
Or you could just make 90 right there.
That's right. You can pull in off 1000 South. You could, potentially even make a U-turn in the parking lot and come back out on 1000 South, because getting out on Main Street with trailers is a nightmare. And right now, if you have a trailer, I don't know if you have that Google view or the Google map view up, but how the fence is right now, you cannot zigzag through there unless you're in a Prius. If you're in a truck and especially with a trailer, there is no getting through there.
Right now, if you I would pull off Main Street and hopefully no one's in the parking lot, and I back out and go on the Main Street, or if I'm lucky, I go to the very north of your existing building, make that corner and go straight all the way out to the west, right? So I'm just saying, to me, it just seems like it's getting closed in, but I'm sure you're thinking about it, because basically anybody that buys your inventory is pulling a trailer.
Jamie, can you zoom in a tad more and then go south a little bit? Okay, so you see where the concrete and the pavement meet? That's where the fence currently runs. So in order to get through there, you'd have to pull on that approach. You'd have to take a left right there on the concrete, then a right, and then go through. So now where the tree is that you can see in the couple of those cars that are parked, that's all a straight shot all the way through, no fencing, wide open.
Okay.
And then you'll see on the site plan as well, up against that existing building, there's some designated trailer parking that are 40-foot long spots. Or I think they're even longer than that, maybe. Yeah. So those will be designated trailer spots on one side. You have the straight shot drive through, and then on the other side you'll have and that's the other thing too, is as part of this agreement with the insurance, the gentleman that owns the insurance building, all those spots that are in the middle of that parking lot just south of his building, we own those spots. We're giving those to him. So we're giving him access to have designated parking for his people in those spots, and he's given us the straight through drive. So he wins because he has no parking right now, because our employees are just taking up every spot there is. So he wins, and then he gives us the straight shots through so that the trailer parking gets alleviated and the flow out there to 1000 South. So it's kind of a win-win for him and us.
Okay, yeah, that was my only concern. I just want to make sure that the traffic flow worked. I'm sure you thought through it. You just had to help a simple mind like mine walk through it.
Very good. For purposes of the public hearing, Jamie, sorry, for notices of the public hearing, would the immediate neighbors have been noticed for this?
Yeah, we would have sent out any property owner within it, which is just them, but then anybody who's adjacent.
Okay, they've only got noticed. Okay.
And just for the record, the property owner that is in that insurance building, him and I had a very good conversation yesterday afternoon. In fact, I believe he may be online on the call. He said he was going to try and be, but we work well together, and he's in favor.
I was just going to ask that question, so thanks.
Sorry, I beat you.
No worries. No worries. Since that is an interesting and unique part of this, is that property owner online right now?
Yes, my name is Sean.
All right, could you introduce yourself, sir? Introduce yourselves and give us comment to what you have in front of you.
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to. So my name is Sean Iverson. I do own the property that we've been discussing at 906 South Main. And recently, in the last few years, we did do an extensive remodel, and the exterior looks much more pleasant. So does the inside. And we are very for Dave Hicks and Karl Malone to open this up and to improve the looks of HEBER around that same block. And so Dave and I have spoken many times, and it is favorable for both of us. And so definitely we would appreciate if you did pass this in the Planning Commission. Any questions for me?
It would appear not. Very good. Thank you, sir.
You
Okay,
bet.
with that,
Thank you.
we've noticed the public hearing for this, so we're going to open that public hearing. Just to remind everybody, the rules of engagement are that you're able to come forward either online or in person, give us your opinion or concerns about this project. You have limited to 3 minutes. With that, we hereby open the public hearing. Anybody who'd like to have any comments or
So what
questions
should we get?
about the property, please, and this proposed agreement, please come forward now.
We just like use a credit card, go to the store and stuff.
I see no
Use
hands raised
$30
other than the
maybe,
one that's
or
come
less.
before, which is 8.
Sorry.
So I will
Sorry,
presume
I have a
that.
comment.
Yes, Jamie, you have 3 minutes. Go.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering what the exact rule is on who needs to be notified. What, do you have the state law for that?
We have ordinances related to the notice of public hearings, and I believe they're publicly available, and they've been issued and discussed in this meeting and previous meeting. Do you have another question?
Well, do you just have the code I can reference, the state code I can reference?
Is it a state code, Jamie, or is it a?
So there's a state code that does outline that, and then there's also a city code. And I'm happy to forward those on. I believe there's a couple different sections that I think it's
Maybe Michelle
Title
knows.
10.2,
Does
and
Michelle
then
know?
there's 10.6, but we can forward the direct links.
Very good. Any other questions, Jamie? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, we're going to get back to you on that with the specific state and the city codes on the notices for public hearing.
Okay, who is going to get back to me?
Yes.
Who?
This is
Michelle's gonna get
this-
back with
Michelle's
you.
going to get back to you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay, great, thank you.
Very good. Any other comments, questions, concerns from the public or anybody here? Hearing none, let's close the public hearing. Thank you very much. So, commissioners, do we have any other questions for staff or the applicant at this time?
Only thing I would say, if you know, you will be taking down the black chain link, and you will be putting some rock like infrastructure out there for display purposes. If there's any way you could put some trees or some form of like live vegetation out there, that'd be brilliant. I know that you're redoing the showroom and stuff, but I mean, if you could like a really cool couple pine trees out there to bring in like something of the mountains here.
1,000 South?
No, no, like where they're doing their rocks up front, where there's just a chain link fence now.
Yeah.
Just like something a little bit more aesthetic up there that's my only thing.
Put a cell tower.
Let's do a cell tower that looks like a pine tree in the middle of
I was
downtown.
going to say that. I didn't say that.
Cell company pay us rent, we got a deal.
I will get on it.
We do have a street tree ordinance that they would have to comply with. So.
Okay.
Sorry, Russ, did you want to?
Yes, with regard to I know we're just working through the MDA right now, and so I know that your site plan and whatnot's going to have to come before us, but I guess this is just kind of a preemptive strike. You mentioned something about an agreement with that property owner there next to you. Is that a written agreement, or what do you have there? Is that just verbal right now? And if so, will it become a written agreement when you apply?
Yes, right now it is a verbal agreement. We have had conversations about if everything moves forward, that we will have a written agreement
Okay.
in place.
Okay, yeah, perfect. That's so just telling you, we're going to be looking for that when you apply, so, okay.
Now, one thing maybe just for you to be aware of that muddies the waters a little bit is previous to us owning the property, there are some easements that were recorded when Walmart had the property and when they were going to put a fuel station there.
Okay.
So there were some easements that were exchanged between the old property owner of our piece and the old property owner of the insurance building piece. And so we're trying to work through the muddiness of that. And once we kind of get to the end of that, we'll have a written agreement between ourselves of exactly what it is.
Okay, that's good to hear that you're working through that, because we would catch it at some point, so thank you.
Jamie, you said that you reached out to the adjacent businesses, correct?
Adjacent property owners.
Property owners, and we have heard nothing from them.
We have not received anything.
Yeah, then
Very
I'm
good.
comfortable.
Okay. So just another poll for our commissioners. Typically we will, after a public hearing, wait another session for more public input, if any. If you would have a poll of those who would like to maybe take action on this evening. Anybody?
I think we should move forward with it.
Okay.
Dave's got a thumbs
Robert?
up.
Sorry. We got a thumbs up from
Yeah,
Dave.
I'm saying I'm good with everything
Josh,
here, so.
you okay, Dave? Robert? Okay, we've had a public hearing. We've had a great report from the staff. Obviously, the MDA, our staff has got some concerns that are going to be addressed in the further negotiation of the MDA. With that, I think we're ready eventually for a motion from the commission.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment first, Greg. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to say, I know that you feel like we're trying to do something different as far as the setbacks and different things. I'm just going to say, it's not like a hat and one size fits all. There's different businesses that have different things that are there, and this is definitely one of them. These are inventory pieces that are bigger. To have a farther setback, to me, is actually a better thing than not. I just want to make sure that I don't feel like we're doing anything that's out of the way. I'm glad that this is the way that's going, and they're not trying to push it right on.
Right, if it were just parking, I would have a problem because it feels like we're getting a big box on Main Street, right?
Yeah, and so I just feel
The
like
product is actually front of the building, right?
it's at a little different scenario. So that's all I was going to say is I'm glad that it's moving this way. And I think this is a great example of why you don't have everything exactly the same because of what the inventory is. So that's all I was going to say. Go ahead, Greg.
I agree, and I just like the idea of the area being more developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of that industrial fencing and just the landscaping is going to improve that whole area, even for the residents on that back side of that building, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I like the idea of this.
Even the trees that Josh has.
Yeah, well, just the traffic flow. I mean, really.
Outdoor sporting place that sells ATVs. I'm like, come on, how much more mountainous can you
What do
be?
you want, an auto-animatronic raccoon that kind of says hi?
That'd be super great. Hey, raccoons, they have
Vegas.
Just
Okay.
the safety factor, honestly. I mean, if I go there, I pull a trailer that's probably between 135 and 142 foot.
Well, now you're just being braggadocious.
No, I'm just telling you, if you want to get in and out of there, it's quite the chore.
I can see that.
To do it. And that's why I brought it up. I'm like, to me, that's a real safety issue. If we can come off of 100 or 1,000, it's going to be a much better scenario. Because, I mean, it's hard enough to go on the main street. Try doing it with a 40-foot trailer. Pretty
Clearly,
hard,
the most
so.
indicated individual is the insurance
No, Sophia's gone.
gentleman on the corner, and he seems to be pleased. But to Ross's point, you need that in writing. So, okay, you have a motion.
All right.
Make a motion.
I move to approve the Karl Malone Polaris MDA as presented with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion above.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Tori. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please recognize by saying aye.
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 In opposition, say nay. The ayes have it. Very good. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving next, number 4. They believe it's pronounced, is it Plourde? Plourde, Annexation, MDA. Please come forward and sit down and sign in, please. No, I believe this is Jacobs.
And this is not a public hearing.
This is not a public hearing.
We don't need him to be.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, let me,
So the rules of the road is staff will give their report, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions or give more good advice. And then we'll do the same to you.
Thank you.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna lean on Casey a little bit because she has done a lot of groundwork to get this thing to the point that it's at.
Okay.
So I'll go through my PowerPoint here, and then, yeah, we'll have a discussion about the MDA, is really what we're looking at. So Plourde annexations, action item. Summary, Ms. Plourde submitted an annexation petition for the annexation of parcel 07-7086 to facilitate the construction of an event venue that works with the challenging topography of the parcel and maximizes the views from the parcel. The annexation petition was accepted by the City Council on January 7th, 2025, and I believe we first brought this to the council March of 2024. So it's been a long process. Policy questions. Today, we're requesting a positive or negative recommendation to forward on to the City Council for public hearing and final approval from that body. So this is the area map. We're talking about this piece of land right here. It's right around 40 acres. The Jordanelle Dam is here. So it's steep. I think there's about 4 total acres that are actually developable. The rest of it has very, very steep slopes. There's an old road that was cut into the side of it. It's challenging topography for sure. The future.
Sorry,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
That runs right alongside Utah 32, correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
road goes right here. Yep. Let's see, future land use designation. So this map is from the general plan. The general plan designation is mountain preservation for this whole area. Annexation policy plan falls well within the annexation policy plan. The zoning, this is where we're getting into a little bit of the meat of what we're requesting in the MDA. So the request is that the property will be zoned Mountain Community Zone, MCZ, with the following adjustments outlined in the MDA. Future building and site plans will be included in the annexation process and will be subject to approval by the City Council. Street frontage landscaping will be required only on 20 feet of each side of the main access point, extending 10 feet back from the property line. So that's if you take the access, 20 feet on either side, 10 feet back. I think the full frontage of the property is roughly 3,000 feet. So we want to put the landscaping where we feel like it's most appropriate and then allow the rest to be natural preservation open space. Event centers will be added as a permitted use as outlined in the master development agreement. Land will be dedicated where necessary to accommodate a trail consistent with the area's master planned trail network. Provisions will be added for the possible construction of a caretaker dwelling at the site of the event center, and provisions will be added for the possible subdivision of a portion of the property to be sold as a buildable lot. So, any questions about that before I move on?
What do we mean by caretaker dwelling?
So I'll let Casey talk about it a little bit more, but I believe it's just a home near the event center where the owners of that event center would live. This is a little bit removed from the rest of civilization in a way, and so having caretakers living right there on site can help with the event center. But if you have anything to add.
nailed it. Yep, that's the idea. Mhm.
So we would not say owners, but perhaps employee, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions?
No.
And this is where, again, PDFs and PowerPoints don't play together. So I have this. This is the concept that they have submitted. So it's north is now to your right, the direction that the highway is going, and the parcel is on the top of the diagram here, and the slope is to the top. If that makes sense. So this.
Sorry, I'm a little confused.
We're on the southeast corner of the parcel.
So this is, this is the dotted line. This is the parcel. North is going directly to your right.
Where's the dam?
The dam is going to be just over here outside of the image.
Okay, I understand. Okay.
Okay. So tilt it a little bit. So there's a couple things going on here. First, this portion up here is one of those roughly 4 acres of developable, usable land. And so the applicant is hoping to be able to subdivide that and be able to sell it as a buildable lot. The access and all of that stuff would need to be worked out with UDOT at that time. Then over here, this is the south end of the property. This is where the bulk of activity would be taking place. And we have a zoomed in shot here. So I think we've even one more. Yeah, let's do this one. Oops. So you can see here they've included parking stalls, the required and necessary fire lane, turnaround, trails going down to a platform, bathrooms, future potential for a few yurts. I believe this is the old road that was cut through. There's a large geologic feature here. I'll let Casey talk more about the details, but this is the site plan. And something that's important to note here with the MDA is we're proposing that the site plan and building elevations, which this is a rough sketch, would get much more detailed before approval with the council, that site plan, building elevations will be approved as a part of the MDA, and that's what they will build. And there will not be too much flexibility once we've gotten through that MDA and said, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to build this. So, is there any questions about any of that?
So
sorry.
Just to be clear, the MDA is not in front of us tonight?
It's not in front of you in a written form, but these, so the, let's see, back to my PowerPoint. This is essentially the bones of the MDA. So these are these 6 items, as they include approval of the event center, approval of the building and site plans.
So it's typical that in this situation, we don't actually have the draft MDA before you. We have, excuse me, we have kind of conditions that we would, that outline essentially, as he mentioned, the backbone or kind of the terms of what would be included in that. And then we usually draft that with our city attorney prior to taking it to city council.
But it would not be coming back to us again.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the main purpose of the event center?
So private events, weddings, and corporate events and things like that.
I only ask because I'm a florist.
Yes, I've worked with you before, actually. I don't know if you remember me.
Your face is so familiar.
Yeah. Harvest Moon Events is my company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Before we open questions, so, sorry, Jacob, are you done?
Just about. So we went through the site property policy questions. So yeah, we're really just requesting a positive or negative recommendation from this body. Any conditions that you may see appropriate to add into that we could bring forward to the council. I did want to mention briefly just how many logistical hurdles have been overcome just to get to this point, from access with off the highway, working with UDOT, sewer, fire, all those different things. We worked with staff for the better part of a month and a half to get all of that ironed out and to get to the point where we feel comfortable to start moving through this more public portion of the process. So if you want to touch any more on that, Casey, you're welcome to, but
Sure.
that's the end of what I have.
Before we maybe jump into some questions then, do you have anything you'd like to offer or add to this?
I just wanted to kind of give a little bit about my background too. So I am an event planner and I have my own business. I opened it in Park City in 2012. So going on 13
Are you the property
years.
owner?
Sorry?
Are you the owner?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I own the property. This is my father, actually, who's an architect.
Oh.
So he's been really helpful and very instrumental in all of this. These are his plans that we've put together. Yeah, I'm very excited about this possibility. I've been wanting to have my own venue in Summit or Wasatch County for years and found this property after a lot of searching for properties and came to the planning department with my idea and my vision and presented, like Jacob said, to city council back in last March with my idea. And it seemed to be a very good fit for the topography and the location right on the highway, accessibility, yet open space. And so I've really felt quite supported by planning and everybody in this process. And we're very excited about it.
Your vision for them? I don't know how familiar they are with what you're planning to do. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting she maybe share more of her vision so you can understand what led to what's before you today.
Sure.
Yeah, so the vision for the space is as much glass as possible to really capitalize on the views. And so originally it kind of started out as a greenhouse sort of space. And then as we were planning, realized how difficult temperature control is in a greenhouse. So we're still thinking a lot of glass. And you can see that the main building is what's drawn there. Smaller space, probably about 1,500 square feet is what we're thinking. And then with a lot of decks. So the decks platforms have been a solution for the challenging topography. So occupancy load, we're thinking about 212, I think is the exact number that we have determined we can have there. And then if that's too large for the enclosed glass building, then people can gather on the deck with temporary structures, tents, and things like that. The yurts are there as support buildings, potential overnights as well, and the council seemed excited about that possibility. But also a place where, you know, a bride could get ready in a yurt. And then we have a couple of ancillary buildings for restrooms and storage as well. But yeah, the overall vision is really just to minimally impact the land as much as possible. Use it however is the best fit with the topography, while getting the utilities there is a challenge. So we've worked through a lot of those hurdles, and we feel like we're at a good place now.
Yeah,
So
so the
could you-
idea is large vehicles will not get down below. Those are foot trails or golf carts for those people that are unable to make their way down there, but they're meant to be gentle walkways.
So there's a big elevation change between the parking and the structures?
There's an elevation change, probably from parking down to the buildings. The permanent structure is, I'm going to, off the top of my head, 15 feet, something like that.
Okay.
So it's not monstrous, but it's something that needs to be navigated gently for people that are on foot. And would be the large amount of access would be by foot.
What's the purpose of the platform? Sorry to ask a question. If I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir. Is it a platform? Is that what that is?
Just additional meeting space. So in an event setting, it's nice to have multiple places to gather. So perhaps people would start with their ceremony in the glass building and then meander down to the deck for the reception, or vice versa if you wanted an open air ceremony. So
Okay.
just different gatherings.
So you don't anticipate a shade structure of any kind on that?
Tents, absolutely, yeah. We could do a seasonal tent.
On the platform?
On the platform, yeah.
So is it essentially becoming a stage?
A stage like for performances
Or something like that?
certainly could have live music.
I'm just curious, how high is it off the ground?
Oh, good question. Well, it's on the first side.
So the north side would be very close to touching the ground, just maybe elevated a couple of feet.
You could step up to it?
And then it would level out from there, and as the ground drops away, it would expose some support structure below it.
Mm-hmm.
Curious. So you're not seeing a public assembly here greater than, I heard you say 200, 300 people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not envisioned as a concert venue, if maybe
That's
that
where I
was
was going,
coming to
sir.
mind.
Because
He's never said anything.
there is a concert venue nearby, isn't there? Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
In our materials, we have Exhibit G, which is a concept plan, but it's not real. I mean, it shows an amphitheater type thing there. So what we have, is it version 1.0?
Oh, in the initial.
I don't know. It's just, all I have is Exhibit G. And so all I'm saying is what I was looking at and then what we have now are two different things. So I just wanted to know.
That may have been what we submitted for the petition,
Mm-hmm.
and the concept has changed. Yeah.
You guys have, he has something better than I do. So I must have predated information. Mine is, the document is petition for annexation into Heber City, and you go down and then it just shows Exhibit G.
Yeah, that was the initial petition that we.
So I'm just saying that's what I'd been looking at. So it's just different. So tell me a little bit about utilities. You said you rented. I mean, we've got water, we've got power, we've got sewer. You have the access onto the road. So tell me what your journey has been.
Yeah, so water's been the most challenging. We've been working closely with JSSD, and we've promised the fire department we're going to have either a fire hydrant or a very large retention pond, which is 90,000 gallons. So very large. We're hoping to do the hydrant. And to do that, we're going to have to bore under Highway 32 because the line is across the highway. So we're working through all of that. JSSD is helping me to figure out the best route to go. So yeah, sewer is a little easier. That's on our side of the highway. So we'll just plan to connect to that with an ejector pump.
Mm-hmm.
Power, Heber Light and Power we've spoken with, and it's all possible to get power up there. What else is there?
Are they making
water encompasses culinary and fire protection?
So what about your gas? But I was going to ask you about your your storm drain system. Have you talked with I know storm drain's been a big issue for other developments in that area. Have you done calculations that way, or what's happening there, Ross, or is it just?
Nothing is happening there as of yet, but they would be required to comply with the stormwater design manual and address their developed stormwater when it comes time for that application to come in.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I know when other developments have come in, the things that have been, I wouldn't say, they're about a little bit of a wall, a little bit of a stumbling block. So making sure that everything's out there. It sounds like you're doing there and you've got your access. I know I heard them say something about gas. You don't necessarily have to have gas because you could do electric or there's some other things or even propane. So I don't see that as an issue. But I know storm water retention has been a big issue, especially on that north side as you're coming down. There's a watershed there and capturing what's there. But I'm not the expert. The city would be, and so you just want to make sure that's on your radar as you're, taking your obstacles out of the way.
Parking, gravel.
Yes, so the intention has been, and we have not talked directly with engineering about it, so I've not heard their thoughts on this, but the intention's been to have permeable paving or gravel, have a hard surface that complies with fire truck use. And there are some multiple pavements that are possible for that, but try and minimize any non-pervious pavement and hard pack the walkways. So maybe a small gravel hard pack, but do things that don't create problems of water collection and then disbursement that become problematic.
Yeah, I think you're approaching it the right way. I'm a builder. I'm doing a one north of town that's somewhat of a venue. And I mean, as an architect, you know what you have to get through. I mean, it was our load occupancy, I don't think is as big as what yours is. And we have a tremendous amount of things that we have to do just to have, I mean, no one's ever going to live there, just a venue. So, I mean, I think you've got your dad, he's got the good eyes, so he's going to be able to, help you do that just so that, it's not just building a greenhouse. It's like, okay, I mean, the things that we had to go through as far as our men's and women's bathrooms, even though, I mean, just make sure you got all that out in front of you because they will definitely hold your feet to the fire on that when you're going through for your permit. So, but other than that, I just, I'm more of a nuts and bolts person. And so I think it's great. I see the vision. That's a beautiful area. I mean, I think that it could be well received and hopefully you can take all the obstacles out of your way.
I have a few questions. Can you show us where on here approximately you're hoping for the caretaker dwelling to be?
Yeah, maybe if we scroll back to the bird's eye view there. Maybe a little further zoomed out. So what we haven't talked about is that we want to dedicate 32 acres to a conservation easement. So that's where Jacob's got his cursor there and all the way up to the north. So the area we would put the caretaker dwelling would be within that section there that we've outlined. And, we haven't identified an exact spot. We know that we have to be within slopes that are less than 30%. So we need to do some further slope study. We've done a slope study on our little area that's shown, and we've determined where our building is going to go based on that. But we haven't studied the rest of the area through there.
My next question is, the first time I saw this, you were talking about like portable toilets and trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys still thinking that, or you're going to do permanent?
We started with that because, that's customary in the event world, and it's less impact on the land, and you can just take it away and service it and put it back fresh. And they have such nice ones now. But after going down this road further, it seemed that to have a permanent structure, which is our glass building, we needed to have permanent facilities. So that then led us down the path to get all of the utilities and everything. So the expenses have certainly gone way up, but we are planning to have permanent facilities now.
And that would then trigger your unit count based on occupancy. So that your 220 some odd is going to trigger the number of
Right, a
fixtures.
certain number
You've
of
done all that.
restroom
work.
stalls, yes.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
My last question is probably more for staff. So with the 4 acres to possibly subdivide and sell, that would still stay under Mountain Community Zone, correct? And so then, I guess it has sewer, so at that point, as long as everything stayed the same, the maximum density would be 1 unit per acre, so a maximum of 4 units, basically.
Well, the portion we're talking about subdividing is actually only a third of an acre.
Third of an acre, yes.
Oh, okay. I was mistaken on that then.
Yeah, I heard something different
Yeah.
in the introduction. So that's a third of an acre?
Yeah, I'll clarify. Essentially, the community zone allows for 1 unit per acre, or what, sorry, 1 unit per 5 acres if it has septic and a well. If it has utilities, which would be the special service district, then you can have 1 unit per acre. So essentially, we'd have to have a 1 acre lot. If the planning commission feels like a third of an acre or something else is acceptable, that'd be something we need to write into that development agreement.
I thought it was 4 acres, that's why I
Well, it
was.
says 3. Is it my reading right? Does that say 3?
Point 3, I
Point 3.
believe. It's just
You're
a-
challenging my eyes here.
We were
I think
all a little
Jacob was
confused.
saying that there's only about 4 acres on this whole 40-acre parcel that's actually
Yes.
developable.
Yeah.
So this is a third, 0.3 of an acre that we'd reserve for that single.
And that's something you want to sell.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an anomaly in the site boundary that has this bump out in it, and it's at the extreme north end of the site up against the highway. It seemed that was maybe a suitable consideration for a home site.
So the zoning change would go from what to what? Sorry to ask you to repeat
Wait,
yourself.
no, that's fine. Currently, it is in the county, and I'm not familiar with what the county zoning is.
I think it's Ag 20 in the county.
Thank you.
That seems right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a big, agricultural, very, very low density zone. And then we'd be moving it to the MCZ zone with a few specific modifications.
And what is there a limit, or does that address occupancy or in terms of assembly, is there a limit of any kind?
I don't believe so in that zone.
So in the 50 to 100 year picture, you're wildly successful and you sell this to your grandchildren and they decide to go ahead and turn it into a 1,000-seat venue. I want to ask if that's possible here
Immediately, I don't.
in 50 years.
Well,
I'm just asking because that's what's now being introduced to the area.
Any of us be here in 50 years?
in 50 years, I think a multitude of
Let's
possibilities.
let's
are
be more
possible.
reasonable. Let's say something in the shorter term. That's
In the short term, no, I don't think that's possible because we are adding the event venue, and we're not specifying the size of that venue. But I do think the challenges of this property and a vast majority of this property is going to be set aside under conservation easement.
right.
In order to have a venue of that size, if you're just going off of current regulations, the required parking alone would probably kill it. Because there'd be nowhere to put parking except at great expense.
Right.
Yeah. We've really had to be creative in how we lay this out, and there's not much wiggle room.
Commissioner, any other questions?
So we won't see this ever again, correct?
No, that's correct.
Rude.
I think so.
Even after annexation?
Even after what?
You will
Sorry,
get
Tori.
the site plan will come back.
How does
Yeah.
that work? If it's in the county, I'm just trying to understand how this works.
Is
Yeah,
this-
so I see there are there's two actions here. One's to annex it and the other is to approve the MDA.
No.
I'm going to let him, I'm still learning on annexation, so I'm going to let Jamie talk.
Yeah, so you have you're recommending body for the annexation, and then there's usually an associated agreement. So when the council approves an annexation, usually the annexation and the agreement are done via one ordinance. The next action for you would be a site plan on a project like this. So essentially it's one, the annexation and development agreement are one at this point.
But to Josh's question, we won't see it back.
You will, if they, not prior to annexation, that's correct.
But after annexation.
After annexation, you would see a site plan.
So our only action tonight is, do we say that it's part of the annexation based on the MDA that we see?
And it's going into that zoning, which is this mountain zoning. And then therefore, what does that mean or not mean for that area?
Yeah.
Right. That's all. That's why I asked the question about a future purchaser then turning it into a bigger assembly venue, because that's what would happen. This is a beautiful location. They're going to spend a lot of money. They'll turn it halfway down. They're spending half the money required to make a big venue out of it.
No way you can
And
do
no-
1,000.
normally,
You
yeah.
could never do 1,000 people up there because there's not enough parking up there. Even if you bus people up there, there's not enough slope even to put 1,000 people up there.
Well, and applying the zone to it normally would create risk of developing more of it. But because it's all 30% grade or steeper, it can't be developed anyway.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way, though. I mean, you could
But the
excavate.
county doesn't allow anything built on 30% or steeper.
Right, but they could then.
Go back to the annexation map, please.
And the conservation easement prevents the
I
development.
was just going to say, the conservation easement does, and the parameter of that area you've defined is, sorry.
You're okay.
Annexation.
The bigger one where
Oh,
it shows in the,
Sorry, Tori, could we just, so Derek, you were finishing.
sorry, I was just asking to move that.
Jamie, does Heber City have a maximum slope you can build on?
Heber City does have a sensitive lands ordinance, and essentially we require that you have a minimum of 5,000 continuous square feet on a lot that is under 30% to establish basically a building pad.
4,000 for us.
It might be 4,000. Sorry, 4,000.
Okay. And keep in mind, if somebody really wanted to dig it out and create with retention wall parking, it becomes profitable when you have an assembly venue. Trust me. So, you know that.
35 feet of stone.
If you have a landscape architect working for you, but it may. Okay. Sorry, did you want to ask any more questions, Tori?
No, I just wanted to see the zoning map, just to see, it's currently surrounded by mountain community zone with a little bit of
Is the map?
north, yes, thank you.
Yeah, so Mountain Community Zone is everything to the east of it, a little bit of the NBAs down to the south, but yeah, it would be this right here.
Johnson owns.
So I think you tried to reach out to him, the owner of that property, to include it. And
Never
we,
heard back. I think it was Randall, Timothy Randall.
On map that it's Carol Johnson.
Yeah, we contacted, well, through the
Yeah, Carol Johnson.
So would that peninsula cause an issue with the annexation?
the city attorney told me that he did not believe it would cause an issue. So that's why the annexation petition went through and the council approved it. We looked at that during that process.
Is that on the other side of that road? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's another really steep slope on the other side of the road.
That's why you haven't heard back.
It's even worse than their property.
It's not a very nice thing to say.
I was going to suggest if, the concern is an 11,000-person assembly place, we're happy to put something in the MDA that limits occupancy.
It would need to be done in annexation right now, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie. If the planning commission was concerned about a future occupancy of it being greater than what's being petitioned now, would we, and we motion that as part of our recommendation, would that travel with that back to the city council?
Yeah.
Okay. Now would be the time for anybody to do that under annexation. Any other questions?
I have one question, I guess. And I might have missed this or not. Is this event center going to be operating year-round?
Yes, we would like to have events year-round.
And you're not going to have fully paved surfaces in all the areas where people are going to be driving or walking? Have you thought about snow removal and control at all, or?
Yeah, I'm thinking with the hard-packed pavement that we do for the driveway, it's still going to be plowable. And then we would just maintain the paths ourselves.
It'll be a challenge, I think.
But it's mostly your glass structure that would be operationally in the colder months, right?
That's right. The deck would just be non-functional in the winter, and then the glass building would be the main space.
And there'd be nothing keeping you from expanding this to another building.
Except
Or even
for
a
the
bigger building.
30% or more slope.
Yeah, just the challenging slopes and the lack of funds at this point.
No, I understand, but
Yeah.
okay. All right. Any other questions? Planning Commission? Staff, anything else? Concerns, anything else like that? Our applicant? Anything else?
Oh, for me? No.
All right. So under full disclosure, I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact that I didn't really do my homework in understanding this was coming up as an event center. I will recuse myself from this vote as I'm currently participating in another assembly venue that's reasonably nearby.
Oh.
And therefore, this could be thought to be competitive and that I'm spoiled to this. I personally will recuse myself from this vote.
Okay.
You can tell I am actually in the same business. So.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I think we're ready for a possible motion from the Planning Commission.
I move to approve the Plourde annexation as presented with the findings and conditions as presented in the conclusion in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
One second.
Okay, we have some discussion. I would recommend the Planning Commission does consider since this is annexation, that we would consider recommending to the City Council that the event center have an occupancy limit or limit of business, the number of people ultimately being in this area, even though we've discussed this tonight. We've had a conversation about what is or is not plausible or reasonable and or affordable. I believe those are all issues that can be circumnavigated by the will of good money and the opportunity. It's a beautiful place to be. I just would say on behalf of that area that it would be a good idea as we're annexing it to potentially, and this is my recommendation to the Planning Commission, to consider that you cap the number of people that would be allowed to assemble in that particular area.
I do have to ask, is that an unbiased opinion? Because of your connection to your other project?
No, yeah, that's a good question. I'm saying that in the full thinking that it could be completely competitive to whatever we're doing or not doing. I'm just interested in, as you are, to the good use of the land. That's where I was going. But take it from where you will.
I'm probably more inclined, I think the parking in other areas are going to kind of limit, what the occupancy load's going to be, as well as bathrooms and a lot of other things. I'm probably more looking at this, let's call it an accessory dwelling, the other dwelling that's going to be there. What do we do to, I can see that there needs to be, if this is an industrial, it would be a caretaker unit is what it would technically be, where, it's not like you're going to sell off the other parcel. It has to be all one ownership. And so that, if that's the intent of it. So I want to see things move forward. I guess I'm just trying to think through my mind, how that one additional lot, if you will, is part of it or stays continuous with what the property is. I know it'd be a great value to turn around and just sell the property off, and it might be what they're thinking to do for financial reasons, but I think the intent would be that one home, if you will, becomes the caretaker of what the venue would be. So just so you know, that's how my mind's thinking. I don't know if anyone else is thinking that, or if that's not even an issue for you. So
I'm not totally clear. Is the caretaker dwelling and that other parcel two separate things?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so the caretaker dwelling would be within the area defined within the 8 acres that we've set aside. The portion we are hoping to sell, and yes, for financial assistance with the project, is that upper 0.3 acre that we would want to subdivide, or, yeah, I'm not sure the technicalities of how we go about it.
It seemed like there was an opportunity there, but from what I understand, the project moving forward is not contingent on that dwelling, that property being subdivided or sold off. That's not what it's really about. It just seemed like a useful opportunity maybe for someone to occupy a small piece of property there that otherwise wouldn't have any direct use for the overall 40-acre parcel. It's so removed from everything else.
Okay, that leads me to two questions. The first one is, if it's only a third acre, then there's not really anything, as it's zoned in mountain community zone, that anyone could really do with that, correct?
That is definitely something we would need to dig into further with the MDA. And I think that those details would get ironed out probably in the process with the council. So I think if the planning commission isn't comfortable with that idea at all, then now's a good time to bring that up. Or if the planning commission is okay with the idea of a subdivided parcel on the north end in a form that is legal with the zone, then I think that now would be a good time to bring that up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel
Maybe
like we
Jamie
need
can
to
clarify if needed. Right here.
agree on something that, because if they, in the future, are like, well, this actually isn't usable, so it's not going to be worth anything, so then we need to make it bigger, then that's kind of not what we talked about here. So I just want to clarify that. And then the second thing is the 32-acre conservation part of the MDA? Like, we don't need to add that as a condition, correct? That's already part of the MDA? Because I feel like that would maybe quell some issues that we're
We
having.
definitely could put that into the MDA. I think you're intending to do it regardless, so that's probably a pretty easy addition to the MDA.
Because that would vastly limit almost any expansion, correct?
Yeah.
Unless you really were going to excavate down or something crazy, which I know is possible, but I don't know. Does that make people more comfortable to add that conservation into it?
I think we should, just to make sure it's there. I mean, add everything that we need to add in to make sure we're not going to come back in the future and have to.
Yeah.
Where's the conservation at again, Jamie? Is it the?
It's this, everything that's outside of this small area and this small area. Okay. So you can see the full boundaries of the parcel are this dotted line that go all the way around. And then all of this, how many acres is it total, the easement? So it's, 32. So it's the vast majority of the parcel would be just for conservation.
This might be a question that might be on there and I just can't see it, but from where the conservation begins to where your main stage is at, do you know how far of a distance that is? Or do you have that on one of your maps?
Which distance?
I'm just talking about it just in general, like from where your main stage is to the beginning of the conservation, just straight out. Right there, yeah.
West?
Yep.
I mean, it's not dimensioned on anything.
Okay. That's all right. I just kind of was trying to get a general idea in my mind how far that it would be in future.
Yeah, no.
Some of the steepest
So
part of the property, right?
That's what I'm thinking. It is the steepest part.
Down like that.
Right. Just to
Broader
quell the
scale.
expansion thing.
Yeah, next time I'll make a 3D model and I'll show that. We went out there and visited the site. It is huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably a couple hundred feet, I would think.
Okay. I just was trying to squash some ideas.
Stage.
The platform, I mean, it's the deck, it's 50 by 60.
Okay, so
good size.
take 50 times 4. Yeah, you're right.
I have a scale.
Almost even smaller.
Do the math in my head there.
It's 280 feet from the westerly corner of the platform to the western edge of where the conservation easement is.
Just shy of a football
280
field.
feet.
That answers my question for what I was thinking in my mind.
I'm sure that platform will have a guardrail on it.
Yes.
I mean, unless you're thinning out the herd.
Well, it would cost a lot of money to put a permanent shade structure on it with the winter uses. But,
Yeah. And what was the What was the dimensions of the
A good
glass building?
sled run.
Or
That's
the
gonna be, what was it, 27?
55 by 60 or something?
27 by 55.
Right onto the platform.
It's this one right here, right?
Right, that's the structure outline,
Mhm.
27 feet by 55 feet.
Very good.
And then there's a gathering space on one side.
Mm-hmm.
A
I love how
deck.
you named it Pride Rock.
Yeah.
It's a big rock.
Pardon the alliteration, but it's like a Sundance resort with that space.
Yeah.
There you go, right? Ross?
So is the boundary of that conservation easement set in stone? And before you answer that, let me tell you why I'm asking. Right now, the zone allows for 1 unit per acre, and you've got a 0.3 acre parcel over there. Will you be needing some of that conservation easement boundary to make up a 1 acre piece for a home?
Yeah, and that's a great solution. If you all are open to us still keeping that subdividable parcel, then we're totally flexible. We came up with 32 because it was a nice even round number, but it could be, you know, a portion of that.
31 and a third.
Yeah.
And that's why I brought it up, because the commission was considering entering something about the easement into their motion, and I'm fearing that if you say it has to, the conservation has to be this many acres, that it might mess with you making up an acre of ground for that home, so.
Thank you.
The MDA could read the 8 acres for the development of the event center, and then a 1 acre portion cut into the 32 acre easement, conservation easement, to make a 1 acre subdividable parcel.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get to be considered here, so that you don't limit her saying you have to have a 32 acre conservation easement when she may need some of that land to make up the 1 acre.
Yeah, it
Vast
seems like
majority will be a
it seems like it would be good for us now and for her in the future to just hammer this out now.
done.
It seems like it would be good for us now and for her in the future to not have to stumble over this again.
I read.
Thank you, Ross. Yes, Michelle? No, not at this time.
All right, well, shall I amend my motion?
Yes. I think we need to have an amended motion, yeah.
Thought this was gonna go on.
Okay, I would like to amend my emotions, and my motion to approve the Plourde annexation with the definition, tell me how to go here, of the 31 acre conservation easement, 8 acre event site, with the remainder available for,
Yeah, probably 1 acre is what I'm hearing.
does that leave me one full acre, 1 acre?
No less than 1 acre.
Yeah, I want to say less, because that's my only, I like everything except for the third. It needs to have enough variable, if you will, that it can grow to meet what their needs would be. I mean, the acreage is there, it's just how they're going to divide it. So I don't know how to word it the right way. I mean, no less than an acre, if you want to say that, because that way, I mean, it could go up. But the third is where I had the real, issue, so.
So Tori, you could say then that your motion is that the intent of this remaining acreage would be to build a dwelling, and for that to be worked out between the owner and the staff.
But you're thinking of selling it as it is, without the dwelling. Like, that's not a decision you're necessarily going to make.
Yeah, unsure. I don't know if we'll develop it or if we'll sell it just as the land. I'm not sure where this will take us, but I'm very comfortable just saying that that's an acre, and then we adjust the conservation easement to be 31 point.
Whatever the remainder is.
I'd almost say you're better off making the lot a little bit bigger. I'm just saying you could give a 30 acre conservation and make the lot bigger.
Okay.
I'm just telling you, that's going to be more favorable than making the lot smaller,
Yeah.
in my view,
Totally agree. And I don't think anyone's going to argue if you want to make the conservation easement bigger. So we would just say the Plourde annexation with the definition of at minimum 30-acre conservation easement, 8-acre event space, leaving the remainder acreage to possibly subdivide and sell.
Yeah.
Maybe Jamie can help out here, but I'm wondering do we even need in the condition or in your motion to outline exactly what the acreages need to be, or do you say something along the lines of the parcel that gets sold off needs to be in compliance with the zone? So it's going to have to be an acre, and then we can work
fine
out the
with that.
numbers. Yeah.
So,
I'll let
yeah.
Jamie chime
That way,
in, but
because I feel like we're putting words in their mouth, which we shouldn't do. We just want to make sure it's compliant.
Totally.
I think what we could do is we could say, because if you're pretty confident on the 8 acres for your site, you could say, the event site of 8 acres, one additional lot, and then the remainder to be put into a conservation easement.
That's a great way to put it.
The remainder of the lot, sorry, for,
The remainder of the property to be put into a conservation easement.
there you go. So it's going to go back to Michelle if she has that. All right. Sorry? Okay,
She's in the middle of something, and yep.
I see. Okay, so,
What do I need to say at this point?
okay, so I,
What Jamie just said.
I amend my initial emotion to what Jamie just laid out.
Because it's
Fabulous.
okay.
And is our petitioner okay with that?
Thank you. Hold on one second. Hold on. Let's do this according to the steps we have. All right, Tori. So we've had a motion with an amendment, and I think what Jamie and what Jamie just basically walked through. Let's understand what Jamie and Jacob are doing.
Hangman.
sorry, I'm trying to get the wording down from Jamie. Yep. Yeah.
So while they're doing that, clearly we have an intent that you're going to develop 8 acres as an event site. You're going to have a conservation easement for a majority of the land, and that you want to carve out a buildable lot to be able to sell.
Yep, that's great for me.
I believe that's the generic motion on the table, and Tori, it sounds like you're in agreement with that. And who made the second?
I did.
And Mr. Robert, are you okay with that amendment? Okay. All right, we've had a motion, we've had a second, we've had conversation, we've had an amendment to the motion, and we've had a second to the amendment. Any other discussion?
I just want to commend the women entrepreneurs who have been very patient. We've had 2 different tonight who have been very patient in navigating these processes so that they can make their dreams come true. I think it's amazing. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I
It's a lot of
appreciate
work.
that. It's been
Awesome.
a lot of work.
Very good. With that, I think we're ready for a vote. Those in favor of the motion and the second, please acknowledge by saying aye.
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 In opposition, say nay. The ayes have it unanimously. Congratulations. Good luck. Thank you very much for your process.
I appreciate it.
Very good. And for the record, Mr. Jordan did not vote. Thank you all. Okay, I believe we're up for nothing in our work meeting, and we have administrative items, which is the city council communication items. And thank you, Jacob. Thank you.
Let me just get back to last week. 1 second.
So can we have a motion to
What?
adjourn?
Oh, we're trying.
Action item.
Oh, we have to go through the city council, that's it.
I know.
I've said that a couple times.
Thanks. Have a good night.
All right, so I was not there for every bit of the meeting, but we'll go through this. So we had a work meeting where we talked about Arts Advisory Board and the trails, the tax project recommendations. So they had just a work meeting conversation on that. We did a follow-up budget workshop with the council. And then we moved into um, the awards and recognitions. We did a proclamation for National Public Works Weeks, which is in this month. And then on the consent agenda, they approved the tax recommendation project for the board. And I don't remember all that's involved. I think Phil would know more on that. They discussed, and I believe they did not approve, but there was a discussion essentially going on with the city to amend the code to allow that any fee in lieu for affordable housing may be paid to the city. Right now, it requires that everything go to the housing board, and they're just saying that the city has more discretion to say it can come to the city or the housing board right now, and that's been a continued discussion. So
there was no action on that?
that's my understanding, is that they were gonna, but I could be wrong. And then there was just a resolution talking about America 250, recognizing, approving red, white, and blue festivals and those events. Again, red, white, and blue festival sponsorship. And then we had an annual report from the county health department. The Red Rock annexation, we brought forward a term sheet and discussed the recommendations from the planning commission. Ultimately, we got to a point where I think that we're ready to draft a development agreement with them, or an annexation agreement, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to hold a public hearing. We will notice that as soon as we confirm when that will be. We're probably looking sometime in June, but we will notice that. And then we discussed Unity Weeks and just those activities. Public hearing on the tentative adoption of the tentative budget. So this is just part of the budget process that we go through every year. There's a public hearing on the Harvest Village PID, or Public Infrastructure District. There was no action on that. That's also, I believe, to be on the next city council. Valley Hills Drive, there was a discussion there regarding, if you remember, there's some property owners who have access to use some city land along the new bypass, or the eastern, we call it the eastern bypass, but Harvest Parkway. And then I'm not sure what action they took on that. And then there was a development agreement for Upper Jordan Master Plan Community pertaining to the Master Transportation Plan. I don't remember if they actually approved that or not. Ross, do you remember? It was pretty late at that point, like pretty late. So I don't remember where they went on that, but anyways, that's it. Most of it was budget related, and then the presentation. So,
Any questions? Michelle, I think it's a good time just to remind everybody of training, and I think we have a requirement to get back to you for our 2 hours. Is that right? 2 hours for the year? Or is that 4 hours for the year? Okay. How's that? Okay, that's right. Okay. We did our training. Okay. Just so you all know, I'm not going to be able to be here for the next 2 meetings, so your vice chair has agreed to step in, and step up. So, yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. How much did it count for? Because we were there for 2 days, weren't you? Okay.
so there will be.
For several years.
Yeah, you have to do that each year. So there will be an APA in the fall coming up, and it's in Salt Lake City at the Gateway, I believe. So we can get you those dates. But if you're interested in attending that, we would pick up the costs of your registration.
It was good last year. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was really great. I recommend all of us to go to that. Okay. With that, we good, Ross? Anything you want to add into? Jamie, you good?
Yep.
Michelle? Okay, I need a motion. Anybody?
I've made 2 tonight.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Please, Derek. Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Yes, do I have a second? We have a motion, a second, discussion, and all ayes have it. Thank you all very much. Interesting evening. Good work.
So productive. Look at us getting stuff.
I guess I have to put my kids to bed and keep them. Oh. Oh. Nothing gets happened unless you, like, I can post it and I'm just gonna say, hey, well, I don't know what she's talking about, and everything, it's like that everywhere, but, everywhere, it's so dangerous, everywhere is dangerous, and they don't care. So I need to do a lawsuit right now about how they're using these MBAs, and so I asked them to send the code, and you think the planners would know the code if they're planners, wouldn't you know the code that they're using? So I'm like, what's the state code are you using? And I think the whole street is someone knows she owns that property. Oh, yeah. So it was 20 acres, one house per 20 acres. And now she's getting mountain community zone, which is 1 unit per acre. So then so when she gets that, so she's just saying that she's gonna do that, but then she's gonna sell it to somebody else. And do all the- Yeah. So she's already talking about, she's like, yeah, we're gonna bore under the freeway to get the, and like boring under a freeway is, no, but yes, she said to us. She said in the meeting, she's like, yeah, you're gonna have to, we're gonna, yeah, you're gonna. Oh my gosh. Josh Knight, he just works for Mike, he does whatever Mike says. I don't even know. Yeah, he just does whatever Mike Johnson tells him to do. Okay, so they've approved her thing, so she can. Approved everything, but it's the planning. So, yeah, once it goes. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay. That's next week. Yeah. But it's. That's right.
Some of the neighbors created their own mini HOA to control what was going on at the Airbnb house with